Dear soul, this is the truth you need to hear, now or never, so be with me till the very end. Dear soul, I need you to sit down for this one. I need you to close the door, silence the noise, put away the distractions, and give me every last ounce of your attention, because what I am about to say to you is not something you will hear from the world. The world will tell you to smile. The world will tell you to forgive quickly, move on gracefully, and pretend that the knife between your shoulder blades is just a minor inconvenience. But I am not the world. I am the voice that lives in the deepest chamber of your own chest, the one you have been silencing for far too long. And today, right now, in this very moment, I refuse to be silent anymore. This is the truth you need to hear, now or never. So be with me till the very end. Hashtag the heaven you built. Let me take you back. Let me take you back to the very beginning, to the heaven you built with your own trembling, hopeful, bleeding hands. You remember, don't you? You remember the moment you first let them in. Not casually. Not the way you let strangers pass through the hallway of your life. No, you opened a door that you had sworn you would never open again. You took the rusted key that you had buried beneath years of pain, years of disappointment, years of learning the hard way that people are not always what they promise to be, and you used that key. You unlocked the most sacred, most fragile, most protected room inside your soul, and you invited them in. Do you remember what that room looked like? It was everything you never showed the world. It was your fears, raw and unpolished. It was your shame, the kind that wakes you up at 3 in the morning and sits on your chest like a stone. It was your childhood wounds, still fresh, still tender, still flinching at the slightest touch. It was the version of you that existed before you learned how to wear armor. The version that cried without apology. The version that needed without guilt. The version that loved without calculation. That room was your heaven. And you gave them the only key. You gave it to them not because they asked for it, but because something in their eyes told you it was safe. Something in their voice made the walls inside you soften. Something in the way they held your words, gently, carefully, as if your words were made of glass, made you believe, truly believe, that you had finally found the one person in this brutal, unforgiving world who would protect what you could not protect alone. And so you spoke. God, you spoke. You told them the things you had never told anyone. You told them about the nights that nearly broke you. You told them about the version of yourself that you were most ashamed of, the mistakes, the failures, the moments of weakness that would make you crumble if the world ever found out. You told them about the people who had hurt you and exactly how and exactly where it still ached. You told them about your dreams, the ones so fragile that even speaking them out loud felt like a risk. You told them what kept you up at night. You told them what made you feel small. You told them the truth about your scars, not the poetic version you tell strangers, but the real version, the ugly version, the version with blood on its hands and tears on its face and no redemption arc at the end. You gave them everything, not because you were foolish, dear soul, but because you were brave. You were brave enough to trust. You were brave enough to believe that vulnerability was not weakness. You were brave enough to hand someone your entire heart and say, "Here, I trust you with this. Please don't let it fall." And that right there, was the heaven you built. A sacred, private, untouchable heaven made of trust and intimacy and the rare, aching beauty of being fully known by another human being. It was the most beautiful thing you had ever created. And they burned it to the ground. Hashtag the earthquake. Now let me tell you about the moment the ground opened beneath your feet. It didn't come all at once. It never does. The truth about betrayal is that it doesn't arrive like a storm, loud and obvious and impossible to ignore. No, it arrives like a crack in the foundation. A hairline fracture so small that you almost miss it. A strange comment from someone who shouldn't know what they know. A look exchanged across a room. A shift in the air that you can feel but cannot name. You noticed, didn't you? You noticed that something had changed. The people who were trying to destroy you, the ones who wanted to see you fail, the ones who fed on your downfall, the ones who had been circling you like vultures waiting for you to collapse, suddenly, they knew things. Things they had no business knowing. Things that could only have come from inside. Things that could only have come from that room. Things that could only have come from the one person you trusted with the key. And your first instinct, your beautiful, heartbreaking, tragically loyal first instinct, was to defend them. No, you told yourself, not them, anyone but them. They would never do that. They would never take what I gave them in my most vulnerable moment and hand it to the very people who want to see me destroyed. There must be another explanation. I must be wrong. I must be paranoid. I must be overthinking this. Dear soul, I need you to hear me. You were not paranoid. You were not overthinking. You were not wrong. You were just in love with the idea that the person you trusted most in this world was worthy of that trust. And letting go of that idea felt like letting go of oxygen. So you held on. You held on with both hands and white knuckles and a jaw clenched so tight it could crack teeth. But the evidence kept coming, piece by piece, whisper by whisper. The cracks in the foundation grew wider. The people who shouldn't have known your secrets were now wielding them like weapons, aiming at your weakest points with a precision that could only mean one thing. Someone had given them the map to your wounds. And there was only one person alive who had that map. The earthquake didn't come from the outside, dear soul. It came from the inside. It came from the very center of your heaven. It came from the hands you had trusted to hold you together. Hashtag the face you cannot spit on. And now we arrive at the moment that brings you to your knees. Because here is the truth that no one prepares you for. When the person who betrays you is a stranger, or an acquaintance, or even a friend, it hurts. It stings. It leaves a mark. But you recover. You dust yourself off, you rebuild your walls a little higher, and you move forward. But when the person who betrays you is your special person, the one you chose above all others, the one you defended when the whole world doubted them, the one whose name you whispered in your prayers, the one you would have taken a bullet for without a second thought, the pain is not just pain. It is an annihilation. It is a dismantling of everything you believed about love, about trust, about yourself. And do you know what the cruelest part is? The most savage, merciless, unforgivable cruelty of it all? You can't even bring yourself to hate them. You should want to spit on their face. You should want to scream at them until your voice breaks. You should want to shatter every memory, every photograph, every tender moment into 1,000 irreparable pieces. You should want to look them in the eye and say, you took the most sacred thing I ever gave anyone, and you used it to destroy me. But you don't. You can't. Because even now, even after the truth has torn through your chest like a bullet, you look at their face and you see the person who once wiped your tears. You see the person who stayed up late listening to your fears. You see the person who held you when no one else would. You see the person who made you believe, for the first time in your miserable, guarded, exhausting life, that maybe, just maybe, you didn't have to carry everything alone. And that is the torture, dear soul. That is the specific, exquisite, unbearable torture of being betrayed by your special person. It is not just the loss of trust. It is the loss of the only safe place you ever had. It is standing in the ashes of your heaven and realizing that the person who set it on fire is the same person who helped you build it. You don't even want to spit on their face, not because you are weak, but because your love was real. Your love was genuine. Your love was not a transaction or a strategy or a performance. It was the purest thing you had. And even now, even in the wreckage, some part of you still holds that love like a child holding a broken toy, knowing it will never work again, but unable to throw it away. Hashtag what this does to you. Let me tell you what this kind of betrayal does to a person. Not the surface level damage. Not the kind that shows. I am talking about the deep, invisible, soul level destruction that rewires who you are. It makes you question your own judgment. If you were wrong about them, the person you were most certain about, then what else are you wrong about? Who else is pretending? Who else is collecting your secrets and waiting for the right moment to weaponize them? Suddenly, every relationship in your life becomes suspect. Every kind word feels like a trap. Every hand extended toward you feels like it might be hiding a blade. It makes you ashamed of your own vulnerability. You begin to see your openness not as a strength but as a stupidity. You replay every conversation, every confession, every tear you shed in their presence, and you cringe. You are disgusted with yourself, not because you did anything wrong, but because you did the one thing the world punishes most harshly: you trusted someone completely. It makes you build walls so high and so thick that even you cannot get out. You become a fortress of solitude, impenetrable and unreachable. And people will look at you and say, "Why are you so guarded? Why won't you let anyone in?" And you will smile, that empty, practiced, professional smile, and you will say, "I am fine. I just value my privacy." But the truth is that you are terrified. The truth is that the last time you let someone into your heaven, they burned it down and handed the ashes to your enemies. And you have decided, consciously or unconsciously, that you will never allow that to happen again. It changes the way you love. You will love again, because you are human, and humans cannot stop loving any more than they can stop breathing. But your love will be different now. It will be cautious. It will be measured. It will be love with one hand on the door handle, always ready to leave. You will give people 70% of yourself and keep the remaining 30 locked away in a vault that no one, will ever access again. And the tragedy of that is not that you are protecting yourself. The tragedy is that the most beautiful part of you, the part that trusts without reservation, that loves without armor, that gives without keeping score, that part is now buried so deep that even you may never find it again. This is what betrayal by your special person does. It doesn't just hurt you. It reshapes you. It kills a version of you that was rare and precious and irreplaceable. And the version that rises from the ashes may be stronger, may be wiser, may be more resilient, but it will also be lonelier. And that loneliness will follow you into rooms full of people, into new relationships, into the quiet hours of the night when you lie awake wondering if you will ever feel truly safe again. Hashtag the truth behind the truth. But now, dear soul, I need to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Something that might make you want to close this letter and walk away. But you promised me you would stay till the very end. So stay. The truth behind the truth is this: their betrayal says everything about them and nothing about you. Read that again. Let it sink into your bones. They did not betray you because you were too trusting. They betrayed you because they were too broken to honor what you gave them. They did not leak your secrets because your secrets were too heavy to carry. They leaked your secrets because they were too weak, too insecure, too hungry for validation, too desperate for belonging with the wrong people, too willing to trade your sacred trust for a seat at a table that will eventually turn on them, too. Do you understand what I am telling you? The flaw was never in your love. The flaw was in their character. The crack was never in your heart. The crack was in their integrity. You did not make a mistake by trusting them. They made a mistake by proving themselves unworthy of that trust. And I know, that this knowledge does not take away the pain. Knowing that the fire was not your fault does not rebuild the house. Knowing that you were right to love does not undo the damage of loving the wrong person. But it does something equally important. It protects you from the most dangerous lie that betrayal tries to teach you. The lie is this: I should never have opened up. I should never have trusted. I should never have let anyone see the real me. Dear soul, that is a lie from the pit of hell. And I will not let you believe it. Your openness is not your weakness. It is your superpower. Your vulnerability is not your curse. It is your crown. The fact that you can look at another human being and say, "Here is all of me, unfiltered and unprotected, and I trust you to hold it gently," that is not naivety. That is courage. That is the kind of raw, terrifying, magnificent courage that most people will never possess in their entire lives. They took advantage of that courage. They exploited it. They weaponized it. And that is their shame to carry, not yours. Hashtag what you must do now. So what do you do now, dear soul? What do you do when the heaven you built has been burned, when the person you loved most has proven themselves to be the source of your deepest wound, when the very people who wanted to destroy you are now armed with the ammunition that only your special person could have provided? First, you grieve. You grieve fully, deeply, without apology. You grieve the relationship. You grieve the trust. You grieve the future you imagined with this person. You grieve the version of yourself that existed before this betrayal, the lighter, more open, more hopeful version. You let the grief move through you like a storm, and you do not try to stop it. You do not try to be strong. You do not try to be graceful. You ugly cry. You scream into pillows. You let your body shake with the weight of what has been done to you. Grief is not weakness, dear soul. Grief is love with nowhere to go. And you loved deeply. So grieve deeply. Second, you cut the cord. Not because you are heartless, but because you are wise enough to know that a person who has taken your deepest secrets and handed them to your enemies is not a person who has earned continued access to your life. You do not owe them a second chance. You do not owe them an explanation. You do not owe them forgiveness on their timeline. You owe yourself protection. You owe yourself the peace of knowing that the person who burned your heaven cannot come back to set fire to whatever you build next. Third, and this is the hardest one, the one that will take months, maybe years, maybe the rest of your life, you learn to open up again. Not to everyone. Not recklessly. Not without discernment. But you refuse to let this betrayal turn you into a closed door. You refuse to let one person's unworthiness rob the world of your depth, your honesty, your ability to connect on a level that most people are too afraid to reach. You open up again, slowly, carefully, selectively, because closing yourself off permanently is not self-protection. It is self-imprisonment. And you have already spent too long in cages built by other people's failures. Hashtag the final truth, dear soul. I want to leave you with this. You are not broken. You are not stupid. You are not weak for having trusted. You are not foolish for having loved. You are a human being who did what human beings are designed to do. You reached out, you connected, you gave yourself to another person with the hope that they would honor what you gave them. They didn't. And that is a wound that will take time to heal. But you will heal. Not because the pain will disappear. It won't. It will change shape. It will soften at the edges. It will become something you carry rather than something that carries you. But it will always be there, a quiet reminder of the price of loving deeply in a world that does not always deserve that love. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you will look back on this chapter of your life and you will realize something extraordinary. You will realize that even in the wreckage, even in the ashes of your burned, down heaven, something survived. Something indestructible. Something that no betrayal, no matter how devastating, could ever destroy. You survived. You endured. You kept breathing when every breath felt like swallowing glass. You kept standing when the ground beneath you had turned to dust. You kept going when every cell in your body begged you to stop. And that, dear soul, is not weakness. That is not foolishness. That is not naivety. That is the most extraordinary kind of strength there is. So no, you don't even want to spit on their face. And maybe you never will. Maybe that is not who you are. Maybe your grace, even in the face of unspeakable betrayal, is the very thing that separates you from the person who hurt you. They chose destruction. You chose dignity. They chose betrayal. You chose love. They chose to tear down your heaven. You chose to survive the fall. And when the dust settles, when the smoke clears, when the echoes of their treachery finally fade into silence, you will still be here. Scarred, yes. Changed, yes. But here, alive, standing, and slowly, painfully, beautifully, rebuilding. Not the same heaven. A new one. A wiser one. A heaven with stronger walls and better guards and a door that only opens for those who have proven, truly proven, that they deserve to walk through it. This is your truth, dear soul. This is the truth you needed to hear, now or never, and you heard it. Now rise. Asterisk, from the deepest part of heaven, to the deepest part of you. Asterisk.